All right. Are we on YouTube? Oh, it says we're live. Are we on YouTube? And are we on X? Welcome. Hold on. We're going to find out if we're working. Switch it there.
Is that it?
Yes.
I don't see us on this thing. All right, I don't see us on YouTube or on X.
We're on Facebook.
You're live on YouTube.
Oh, we are?
We're live on YouTube. And do you see us on X?
Is it mySCGOP.news?
It is supposed to be, yes. Check. Edit. Oh, you know what? I have to add it. I'm adding it to there. And then I'm going to premium account on X is required. So we're going to move it to the one that we do have a premium account with, which is, so we're going to move it from there. What we're trying to do is do this live streaming and stuff. So we're testing, and we have still not got it down pat yet.
I thought Facebook.
I got.
Yes.
We did, but we've added an X account. We want to get that going.
We're in the south. Only funerals and weddings, pretty much. That's the extent of my.
She's everywhere.
So remove that. Add the X account.
Yeah, but I was.
Authorize.
All right. Almost ready?
I think we're live already. So, all right, then we're going to add the mySCGOP one. Boom. All right, how are we doing now?
We're doing good.
Are we on Facebook? So we're streaming live on,
Facebook and YouTube is good.
and we're on X. We're live. All right, fantastic. I can follow myself back.
There's Irene.
Oh yeah. Now we can start. It's actually her fault we were late.
We're waiting on Irene. That's why we're late.
All right. All right, we're here. Okay, it is Friday, April 18th. We are doing our coffee and politics here out of Greenville. We're still testing a little bit on this going live and podcasting it or whatnot. But what we want to do and why we're doing this is because I think most of our people here in Greenville understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we've been successful at doing it. You know, we just had a successful convention on Monday. Why other people should follow our model in Greenville, what Spartanburg did last Saturday. We have to teach people and educate people on the process and exactly how all of this works. So what we're going to do today is we'll just start off. Normally I get new people to introduce. Do y'all want to introduce yourselves? Because we got a couple new people. If you just tell us your name, how you heard about us. You're not on camera as much, but there is right there. But if you'll tell us your name, how you heard about us, and I guess you did come to the convention on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah,
Scream it out.
my name's Kyle. I heard about you guys just from stopping by and wanting some more info about the club. Moved to the area recently and just looking forward to getting involved. It was nice to be at the convention last week and want to get involved and help out as much as possible.
Okay. And where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey,
From which part?
Southern New Jersey,
Okay.
right
all
outside of Philadelphia.
I used to live in Morristown. I spent a couple summers in Morristown. My father was up there. So
Yep, I know exactly where
it's
that is.
actually a beautiful place. A lot of people say bad things about Jersey, but but it's actually
Some of them are correct.
So, yes, some of them are correct. You, sir, welcome. Glad you're here. And I think we can get you on the big camera over there.
Recently moved here February 5th.
Okay.
From my house.
Welcome.
Off of Bethel Road, Malden or Simpsonville. I don't know which one the town I live in. But, so I have two addresses, I guess.
Okay.
And I'm from New York, born and raised in New York City. I lived in Western New York for 20 years.
Okay.
And I lived in Jersey, South Jersey, for 20 years. I worked with Donald Trump for 18 years.
Did you really?
Seriously.
Really? Okay. Fantastic.
He left New York
Interesting.
to go to Jersey. I followed.
Okay. Good. And where did you live? At Greenpoint? Over there with the Poles?
Um,
She's Polish. So I'm joking. When
Poles like Polish people, not Poles.
when we go to New York, when we used to go to New York, we would go to Greenpoint all the time because that's where she could get her pole. Yeah, it's on the other side of the whatever, not that, it's whatever that river is. Yeah. Brooklyn. It's in Brooklyn. So yeah, so it's where all the Polish people are and all that stuff.
They were there.
Well, the Polish people are everywhere, but
Yes.
they've been infiltrated.
And I've been actively, I was a committeeman for Niagara County.
Okay.
I was election inspector. I worked with Elise Stefanik,
Okay.
Zelman,
Yeah. Lee.
Claudia Tenney,
Yes.
Senator Ort,
Okay.
state senator.
Right.
I've been very active.
Okay. Fantastic. We're glad you're here. You know the name of your precinct? You don't.
It says Malden 6 on my.
Malden 6. Who's our Malden 6 person? We'll find you.
All the
Who?
Malden ones.
Fisher.
Angie
No,
Fisher.
she's Vermont. She's Vermont. We'll get you involved. We have a very active group here. Just so you know, or both of y'all know, I mean, our activity is we're
It's
MAGA.
Jackie
Oh, Jackie
Jowers.
Jowers. Okay, great. She's the mother of a friend of ours out of Charleston, and she'd love to help, and we'll get you active there. But we are more MAGA, America First, obviously. So fantastic.
That's how I found out about, I watched Steve Bannon. That's when you were being interviewed.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I've been looking for.
Yes.
I didn't know where to go.
Yes. And part of our theory is a lot of people say, oh, you can't go too hard right or whatever because it's like, that'll scare people away. And my theory has been there are a lot of me sitting out there that say, I'm not going to get involved with a bunch of these rhinos. But if you can find a home, you'll come and get involved and do things.
Right.
And the beauty of it, especially for people in New York and Jersey and all that stuff, y'all are fighters. Y'all are not like the Southerners, like I used to be, that sit there and say, oh, well, we got to be all nice and prim and proper.
Right.
Olga and I have been fighting on the school choice side in this state since 2013. And we started off all the nice stuff. Nice. We literally even sponsored before we even knew anything, a Chamber of Commerce event. We did all of those types of things. And now they accuse us of being as mean and nasty as New Yorkers. So, it's Donald Trump and all that stuff. Yeah. So, I mean, we are a home, and I think we need to find more of our people. And that's what having Steve Bannon here, having some of the other folks, those types of people. We just need to find each other. And once we find each other, I believe that our numbers are much larger than the other side.
That's why I went to the convention.
Oh, you were there too.
I
Good.
was at the convention. Yeah.
Okay, great, fantastic. I'm glad you're there, and we'll get you involved. Are you new? You are great, fantastic. Tell us.
Carol.
Carol.
And I'm with Fountain Inn 2. I'm a precinct delegate
Oh.
for Fountain Inn 2.
Okay,
And
fantastic.
I was there Monday
All right.
also.
All right.
And Irene's been
Indoctrinating you, properly indoctrinating you. Yes.
Yeah, I want to get more involved.
Okay, great.
I work full time, so I wouldn't be able to come to these usually. but
Sure, that's fine.
I'm off today.
Right, and that's why we're live streaming. That's why we do it on days like this. The Friday after Thanksgiving, the Easter, Good Friday, which is today. Most people like to take a day off, but I'm like, that's an opportunity when some people normally are working. So, and who's Fountain Inn 2? Olga,
Is it Mark
Mark Willis,
or
the House Rep Mark Willis is either in Fountain Inn 1 or 2. And we had a couple people from Fountain Inn that were here last week.
no, actually it's the Leaks.
The Leaks, Carol Leak, and those guys. They're very nice folks. So
I don't know
How
where
do I get in touch with them?
I'll connect you.
Okay.
Yeah.
And funny story about the Leaks. I cannot tell you where they live. We've been to their house, but when they cut grass, the husband Sam, he, what do you call it? He cut Trump.
There's
Out
there's
of-
property down there, and their property has a big trunk cut into it, or not cut into it. So,
You may not see it from the street, but apparently,
but it's there.
Trump.
Yes.
But I'm also originally from upstate New York, Syracuse. New York.
Okay.
I've
All right.
been here for almost 30 years.
Good. One of the things that frustrates, 30 years, that's good. One of the things that frustrates me the most is people up here will try to use the excuse, or people from South Carolina will try to use the excuse, oh, it's all these people moving in from out of state. I'm like, I shut that down immediately. The problem is people like me whose family has been here since the 1600s. I went to high school down the street, and it's like, I got friends that are in the State House that I went to school with, and I'm sitting there, you think everything's good. It's like, oh, that's my buddy. He's a good guy in high school or college. He must be doing good things down there. He says all the right things, he or she, and they're not who they are, because, quite frankly, my theory is I don't like 95% of the politicians, and I can't tell you the 5% I like. But so do that math. Now there are a few. There is a big battle, and we'll talk about it with Curtis Loftus, the state treasurer. I'm very supportive of Curtis. I think he's somebody that speaks truth to power, and I think they're trying to get rid of him because of that. I do like the newest Republican elected official, a gentleman by the name of David Pascoe. He was a Democrat, just converted Thursday a week ago to be a Republican out of the 1st Judicial District. He was a classmate of mine at the Citadel. I've known him for a long time. He was actually part of the college Republicans. He's pro-life. I was a college Republican. He was pro-life. He's definitely in the Second Amendment, and he's tough on crime. He's the guy that only really wanted to do the firing squad, which is so he's kind of on the crazy side. But he was in I mean, it's the firing squad. It is a little different, and I think some of that came about because they couldn't get the drugs to do the shots or whatever, how they do that. So they should have just given them COVID shots and solved it from there. Yes, Tress.
Yeah, the last state we lived in, Idaho, is doing the firing squad.
Are they really? It's interesting. They do it, I think, with just 3 people. I think I'd want like 12 if it was me. But I mean, I don't know.
Depends on the size of the
Maybe hit me everywhere. Knock the whole thing out. But I don't like that fact. They'll blame people moving here, which is wrong, number one. And then you'll see people in the upstate say, well, it's everybody on the coast. Yes. Nikki Haley or even Biden, I'm not sure, or Kamala won Charleston, maybe Beaufort. Nikki won Charleston, Beaufort, and then I think Richland County, maybe some other scatterings. But it's not Charleston's fault. There are a lot of good people in Charleston, a lot of good people that want to fight and do some things. The real problem is turnout. Turnout in the June primaries of 2024 statewide was 13.3%. The state party is not encouraging people to come out and vote. And what we need to do is have to activate people in their precincts to get more people to come out and vote. So one of the big responsibilities we're giving our ECs and presidents, and we documented it on mySCGOP.news how to do it, but go into your precinct and map your precinct. We have precinct maps, which 3 years ago, used to be like the most impossible things to get and to find, until I threatened to send a FOIA request, and they're like, "Oh, we'll provide it to you." So I mean, and so we have precinct maps for your individual precinct, but map it out. Map out a walking route. So like our precinct is right down the street, Timberlake. We've mapped it out into maybe 15 walking routes. That way, when we can go and just drop off, do literature drops. There's different ways to canvass. That you can door knock and go talk to somebody, and that some folks are nervous about that, which is okay. I understand it. I was nervous the first time I did it, even though I was, had worked for billionaires and was tax attorney, CPA, and done all this kind of. But yeah, once you get used to it, now I can care less. I mean, I'll go talk to anybody. I don't really care. But for the first time, I mean, try to remember back your first time. It was nervous. You can make phone calls. We do social media canvassing. We do just plain literature drops. So, like if you're going out on a walk, why don't we, take a plastic bag, put one of these newspapers in it, tell about what's going on in the Greenville GOP or membership, and then have in there articles about that Lindsey Graham actually wanted to shoot Jay Sixers in the head. How many people literally know that? How many people would vote for a guy that sat there and said, yes, before these people had due process, we knew anything about them, I was there and I was scared, so I would have had those people shot in the head. These are Americans that he's talking about, right? So, I mean, that's most people, a lot of people.
He ever been primary?
He has been primaried unsuccessfully. A lot of people have a theory of we ought to have just one candidate run against him. Some people have a theory it ought to be as many candidates. I don't really. I think it's debatable either way, but he can raise a lot of money. I mean, he has $16 million in his account today. He could easily raise $100 million probably in the next 2 quarters. I mean, he is on the Senate Budget Committee, and everybody would throw cash at him, especially he raised a lot of money last time when a Democrat ran against him. But there's one candidate that's out there right now. I don't think he's got much of a shot at it. It doesn't even speak to us. So how can you be to the right of Lindsey Graham when you don't even speak to us? And there's reasoning for that. But there is another, 1 or 2 other people that are thinking about it, and that if the polling and the numbers and all that stuff, that are credible candidates that I think go out there and appeal and kind of move the needle. I know Trump has endorsed Lindsey Graham, but we wrote an article about what I'd expect him to. I mean, he needs Lindsey. Yeah. He's got Lindsey in wherever he needs him to be. And Lindsey does perform. I mean, we only have 53 Democrat or Republicans, maybe Democrats, 53 Republicans in the U.S. Senate, and not all of them actually function, as that. So that's where it is. So I'm not upset about Trump endorsing him. I'm like, what, did you expect him not to and come out and endorse, some Yahoo over here? No, he's going to do what he has to do. But I do not think Donald Trump's going to be upset at us if we put pressure on Lindsey. It was our people that booed him in Pickens and booed him on February 24th, down there in Columbia when Trump won the primary here. I don't think that, I think he gets a chuckle out of it. And the more pressure we put on Lindsey, quite frankly, gives more bargaining power to Donald Trump to get Lindsey to do what he needs to do. If Lindsey thought he had a cakewalk here, he would probably be more in opposition to Donald Trump. So I'm okay with where we sit and what's all going on, but that's a story for a different day. But I will tell you, we're going to work on in this 2-year term, and if y'all are at the convention, this is how we do this every 2 years. We're going to focus on hardening Greenville County, because I mean, it's pretty hardened already, right? I mean, there was only one lady that was yelling no about my election, but and I heard Yvonne was anonymous, and I heard somebody yelled apparently about Mike voting. So, but that's okay. But we need to grow it. We need 2-3 times the number of people in there in 2 years from now, and we'll see who we can get to come to that convention. So we want to harden it so that the rhinos or the establishment can never take over Greenville again. And then we want to work on candidates. We're all about candidates. What we're doing over here on the tech side, Austin is working on it. We've got the database for the whole state. It's not part of the Greenville GOP. It's outside of that. I don't trust the data that you can get from consultants or the state party or anything like that. Even if you look at the data we have right now, the phone numbers are terrible. I mean, it's like, I think they purposely messed them up because they don't want us calling those people. And they certainly don't, bless you, they certainly don't give us emails and all that kind of stuff. So what we're asking our people to do here in Greenville, 151 precincts, and then we got 2,307 precincts across the state. We need, gosh, I always forget what they're called. Not anal retentive, but obsessive compulsive people that say, you know what? I want to fix every phone number that's in my precinct. I got 2,399 people in my precinct. We want to find the one person that wants to go fix every phone number, go knock on every door. I will tell you, there was a guy in Beaufort that brought out 77 people. Well, there were 71 or 77 people at his precinct. He'd never been involved in this before. So don't people tell me that, oh, they don't know and they can't motivate people to come out. This guy went out and did it. We did it in 21 when we got 30 something people out. Now, when I heard about this guy getting 70, I had to call him up and say, "You broke our record. What are you doing down there?" So, but he said he walked his neighborhood. He talked to everybody, and he's like, "I can tell you which one of the Republicans like DeSantis, which one's like Trump, and which one's like Nikki Haley." And the ones we talked to are the ones that like Trump, and we invite them to precinct reorg. Now, obviously, we want everybody to come out and vote in the general election, but we want the hardest of the Republicans, conservatives to vote in our primaries, because if we can move the needle from 13.3% just to 18.3, 5 out of 100 people that didn't vote, if you can get those people to come out and vote, and if they're Trump supporters, I mean, that changes everything. That's 33% of the people that came out and voted the time before. And most people didn't win or lose their race by 33%. It's 2 or 3%. And if you add 13% to 18, if you go that small delta, then I think we can really make a big difference. But a lot of it's going to be about education, knocking on doors, getting to know your neighbors, letting your neighbors know you're involved in the party, and that you're the person to look to that knows what's going on. And there was a gentleman, it was county council member. He lived down a couple of precincts down from us, but everybody would say that whenever he put out that sign in his yard on election morning, everybody would drive past his house. Now we got the 2 weeks of early election, but in the old days, he'd put a sign out there. Everybody drive by his house on the way to the voting precinct, and oh, that's the sign. That's what we vote for, because they looked at him as the knowledgeable person that kind of knew it. A lot of people will look at you guys as knowledgeable, as long as you just don't, go out there and act too crazy in your neighborhood. So we do realize, we call it red pilling. You probably heard that term. You want to educate people about what's going on, but you don't want to scare them to death. If you sit there and go from think back in 2020, most people could not even conceive that the election could be stolen. I'm open to anything as being possible. I didn't know whether it had been stolen or not, but I do know they've been stealing elections for 2,000 years. I can read history, and it's been going on forever. And why would you think it's not happening today? So that's how I would explain it to people when people ask. Now it's much more comfortable to say, yeah, I believe the election was stolen. And I think the numbers say it's like 80% of the people think there was some hanky-panky, with the 2020 election, but they haven't cleaned anything up. And I will give you guys my example, because I say it all the time. When it's very simple to fix and they don't fix it, then you got to dig deeper and ask why. It is not hard to fix the elections.
I work with Marley Harmon, New York Citizens Audit. It is so corrupt. So corrupt.
I think, and it's not my main issue in the fact that I've been in there and spent a ton of time, but I have sat in the meetings. I've listened to elections officials explain what's going on, and I sit there and say, I could cheat here, I could cheat here, and I could cheat here. And I'm like, if you gave me $1 billion, I could probably go, steal the entire election. I can do all.
They're all. They're not right.
Yeah. Yes. And I will tell you, we literally the best story was I hate to call him a skeptic, but he was a candidate for elected office here. Middle of the road kind of guy, very presentable, all that kind of stuff. What you think, everybody would accept as a normal Republican. And he sat there and we're kind of on the crazy side. So he's like hearing us talk about, go pull your voter record and see what it says. Because before they just fixed it, but you couldn't see it online here in the state of South Carolina. So he went down to the Elections Commission, pulled his voting record, and it in one of the examples, it said he did not vote. He's like, he pulls his phone up, goes to the day of, and it's got a picture of he and his wife doing the selfie with a sticker. He's like, why does my record say I didn't vote? Mm-hmm. when I've got a picture time stamped or whatever from that day, with me and a voting sticker. There's a lot of problems. And when people do not want to look into it, there's a reason. And I get it. Maybe your files are just bad and you don't want to look stupid. But you know what? Look stupid. Go ahead and get it fixed. I mean, as opposed to fighting people. And there's a group, Laura Shar and South Carolina State Elections, which is the folks that we work with here in South Carolina. They filed a lawsuit to get those cast vote records or whatnot. The state fought them. I mean, why are you fighting? They give it to them in other states. I mean, I get there's a potentiality of exposing somebody's vote or their confidentiality or something of that nature. I don't know what the other side of the state's argument was. But I'm like, you got 5 or 10 or 20 or 30% of the people or 50% of the people that question our elections. You better go fix it. And then my other anecdotal piece of evidence is the election commissioner guy here in South Carolina. Is a guy named Howie Knapp. He's a Citadel alumni, which is where I went. He's younger than me, obviously, but I've tried to call, will not take my call. And I'm like, I'm the chair, or was the state EC or the chair before, of the biggest Republican county. And Conway, our elections director here, won't answer any email or question I ask. But the state election director won't talk to me. Somebody's told him not to talk to me, and somebody's, and I'm not even the big pounding the table election integrity guy. I'm just trying to introduce, find things, and go from there. So. But there are problems, and we've got to get them fixed. I could not be more excited, especially after Spartanburg, what's gone on in this state. We are on the precipice, is that the word, of really being able to flip everything.
Yes.
And I really believe that, because I see, if most of people with our mindset, and actually a lot of people across the state, just regular folks, they see what goes on in Florida. They hear what DeSantis does. I'm not necessarily a huge DeSantis fan, because somebody talked him into running against Donald Trump, and perhaps, but probably somebody with money too, talked him into it, and he was willing to, I like loyalty. And even in that respect, I don't know why Donald Trump necessarily wanted to, I mean, if I had his wealth and his opportunity, and, but then again, we should be doing something else too. And I'm sitting here. But I'm like, I'm like, the guy could have lived a nice, happy life. But think about it. I mean, he took a risk. Had he lost, he was going to jail. That man would be in jail, and probably in one of these El Salvador jails. They would have a problem with those jails if they were Venezuelan jails or whatever, if it was Donald Trump. But I mean, and I've had ultimate admiration for people like that are willing to stand up. And y'all seen Steve Bannon make the statement that if you're not ready to go to jail, you're not ready for this fight. And coming from a guy that's got a threat of 90 days in jail for contempt, willful contempt, which is not true, in which every lawyer I've talked to and every former judge I talked to is like, that's never happened before in the state of South Carolina. And I said, well, it's going to happen. You wait and see. And that's exactly what happened. So it's all political. But the judges, that's one of the other big problems. The judges in South Carolina are picked by the legislature. So if you're in a battle with the legislature, the judges, are not on our side. So we're not going to get any relief through the court system. The only place I think we're going to get relief is through the court of public opinion, and through taking over reorg and the bully pulpit that entails from the county perspective, and then up to the state perspective. But we had our convention on Monday. I think it was a pretty foregone conclusion. I think it was a lot of fun. I think a lot of people had a good time. A lot of people thought, some people that were used to the battles for the past 4 years thought they were boring. So I kind of thought it was boring. I think my joke to Yvonne has been is we're going to have to recall the convention, because what you do is you recess it so you can call it back. I said, we're going to have to recall it back so I can get my 1 hour at a time to speak to. So I'm teasing. We're not doing that. Well, we may recall it for something, but But that was kind of because I mean we didn't get to give speeches. I mean it's like nothing, like not even our 1 minute of fame. Like there was absolutely nothing. Olga's the one that had the fame, saying that the generals endorsed me. So we our two cats.
Sure they did.
We adopted them from here at the building. One of them is General Patton, one of them is General Eisenhower. So I figured it'd be a problem if we named them Confederate generals. So we named them World War II generals. So, but the big exciting news, and I might get Becky to come over here so Olga can see her on. We can see her on both.
Almost as good as getting interviewed by Bannon.
Oh, you switch it on the switcher.
If I'd known this was going to happen, I would have had my
There she is.
Florida family tune in.
Well, it will be on. That's right now.
Because
It's
they
on
did watch
Facebook.
you on Bannon. I said to my friend, I saw that guy in the green jacket get interviewed.
I know. I can't wait till the rhinos start complaining about me wearing a green
Yeah.
jacket. But it's Greenville. I'm supposed to wear green. And it is the Masters just occurred. So yes, it's not that kind of green jacket. But they can go back and look on YouTube and Facebook and X. So you're there.
Oh, I'll do that. I'll send it to them.
But what Becky McLaughlin has done, she came here initially how many
On
years?
Fridays
On
when
Friday.
I was off because I was teaching school. I would come on Good Friday, Thanksgiving Friday, and every now and then I'd make a dental appointment for later and come here in the morning. It worked.
Yes. Yes. And she lives just a stone's throw across the border into Spartanburg. So she's kind of closer here, but she is technically Spartanburg. And Spartanburg's got a lot of good people over there. And 2 years ago, when they had their county convention, y'all tried a little bit. Some folks over there tried some things and they got ramrodded.
Right.
It was Josh Kimbrell, the state senator over there, was your convention president.
Yes.
And he ramrodded it down their throats. And it's
And
like,
we didn't have a clue what was going on.
Right.
We were new and we're looking around like, what just happened? Try to get to the mic and you're gavelled, sit back down, shut up, we'll move you out. And I said 2 years ago, the only people I knew in Spartanburg lived on my street because we're just barely in Spartanburg. I didn't know anybody, but when I started to get involved in Greenville, I figured if I want to do this in Spartanburg when I retire, I have to know people in Spartanburg. So just like Jeff said a few minutes ago, they found me. I'm not sure how they found me, but they did. And then we
Don't tell them to go to see you.
that's everybody that came here from Spartanburg. We need to talk to Becky. Talk to Becky.
So
Talk to
I
Becky.
get phone calls with just, I know to answer them now. They usually have New York or New Jersey. And there sits one, Anthony Rosana. And
I know.
so it's kind of the story. Anthony met two people from my precinct at Walmart or a restaurant.
At a restaurant.
At a restaurant, and they're just pumped and excited. So he actually came to camp meeting in Spartanburg before he came to Coffee and Politics. I sent him back to you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
But that's part of it. I mean, you try to recruit people in your precinct, but we really recruit everywhere because, I might find somebody that's in your precinct and you might find somebody that's in their precinct and they find somebody in my precinct. It all just kind of goes that way. In 2021, when we were really doing what Becky and those guys did in 24, we had a lot of people. We had people just going out to Haywood Mall and sticking, cards on people's cars, random cars. Yes, now you kind of target if they got a Trump sticker or something like that. You put something, give us a call, welcome. Sorry.
Now remember what the protesters were putting
Oh,
on the convention?
yes. Yeah. At the convention on Monday, some of the protesters came and put stuff on our cars, about you're a Nazi. So, yes, that's why I parked mine really up front because it is pretty obvious what it is. We're looking for everybody and we're looking for anybody on social media that talks our talk, and that type of stuff. And what we're able to do through the data system, and Austin has promised me, since since I bought a $149 some sort of router thing the other day. I said, I'll buy that if you promise, let's go ahead and sit down for 3 days, two days or 3 days or whatever it is, to finish up our GOP Plus, which will allow people to log in there and tag people and say, oh, Becky's a good America First person. This is somebody to stay away from, that type of stuff. So as I'm doing it, I can't wait to go through and do it for 2,000 people I can identify. So if they're in your precinct or whatnot, then you can go on and say, oh, well, these are people that are referenced by Jeff or Olga or by Becky or by yourself. And then, you may know people in my neighborhood that, moms or, relatives or things like that. So that's what we're trying to do. But think about what the big picture is. We got 2,307 precincts. All we really need to do is to get 3, 4, 5 active people like Sally Ann that will go out and knock on doors and talk to about everybody in her precinct, and then that will get voter turnout up. Greenville had 17%, while the state was 13.3. Last year. What we're going to do is benchmark for everybody. This is what your turnout was in June of 24. This is what we want your target goal to be in 26. Get out there and start talking to people. And then once we know who all the candidates are and some things like that, we'll be able to do that better. But
and that way we can update that phone numbers and
yes,
everything too.
Yes.
Add email addresses.
Right.
Find out.
Right. My mother lives in a neighborhood that has a phone directory. Maybe I shouldn't say it online, but you'd get that phone directory and you just go through all the streets and update the phone numbers. I searched my personal phone number in the database of 3.4 million voters, and there's 4 people with my phone number. My cell phone. Fortunately, I'm one of them, which is almost the shocker. But I need to clean it off the other 3. How did my phone number get associated? I mean, maybe I've had that number since 2011, I think. And it's like, how does that phone number get associated with other people? So I think they went in and moved stuff around and purposely did it. But that's
my husband's phone number in that database was the phone that hung on the wall
right
in Florida when we were raising our kids, who are now almost your age.
So almost retired. But what Becky did is what we want to do and teach people is the model. And it's the same model has worked in other counties. Oconee County, they won in 21, but they got pressured out by Drew McKissick. And because there is one thing about winning your precinct and winning your county. There's another thing about keeping it. And I will tell you, they come out and they do some hard things and some very unfair things and unethical things and violations of the rules and all that kind of stuff. But in 2021, the 3 big counties that won were Oconee, Greenville, Pickens, which is held out, and then Horry County. And they took out Horry County and they took out Oconee County. And they did it by cheating and the rules and all that type of stuff. But Oconee County just won back. Now, how did they win back? Is they have a group called the Oconee County Conservatives, and they meet regularly. We meet regularly here. Becky started a group over in Spartanburg. She didn't want to call it Coffee and Politics because then she would have had to pay us $1 every time. So she calls it her camp meetings, which is
Coffee and American Patriots. And so you have to spell it right: capital C, capital A, little m, and capital P.
So she's into branding just like we are with mySCGOP. It has to be a small M, small Y, capital S, capital SCGOP.
I learned from the best.
I think we're learning from you. But what she started is she started having meetings over there. And how many people came to your first meeting?
7.
7. I mean,
and that was September before the hurricane.
Oh.
So we have grown to the last one we had 80.
Wow.
And we moved out of Denny's into the Clock. We're moving out of the Clock into a fine diner, Peach Blossom Diner. And there's a great big room. We can fit 100, but I don't know where we'll go after that. It might be 100 tomorrow. We're looking forward to it because everybody at the convention was saying, we want to come to that Saturday thing. So
Everybody's talking about it. I'm seeing it on social media, and I'm getting the grief that we don't have as many people here as she's got at her meetings.
And I'm giving the grief.
But part of what we're doing, because we were meeting at Denny's too, we're trying to like, with the materials and filming it and all that kind of stuff, what we're trying to do is reach out. And I encourage you guys to think about it too. But I will tell you, the other thing that's been very beneficial for them over there is the guys that started the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness. These guys, there's 3 guys up in Campobello, Brian
Alverson and Lou Nisbecca and Keith Taylor.
I went and did it with those guys 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And
they had 10,000 views
they
on the podcast that you were on.
yes, apparently I was the record
Yes,
holder
you are.
so far. So
But I haven't been
but
on
she
it.
hasn't been on it yet, so she'll be the new record.
She'll blow you out of water.
That's right. That's right. But they've only done like 20 of them. But they, and I'll tell you, last night they were talking truth to power.
Yeah.
Because Brian, as we kind of maybe started, and since it's out there, there was some allegation. I mean, maybe you can explain it a little bit better.
It involved his grandchild,
Right.
and I know a little of it. That DHS was involved and took his grandchild out of the grandchild's home, where Brian's daughter is the mother of the grandchild, and in the exchange of when Brian intervened, of course, I have grandchildren. I would probably go to the moon to get mine back. And this is his oldest grandchild. So when Brian attempted to intervene, the grandchild ran to him. And as I understand it, he swung around as his grandchild jumped into his arms and bumped into the DHS officer or the sheriff's department officer, I'm not sure which one, who filed assault charges against him.
Wow.
And he went to jail.
He has a mugshot.
Yep. He is a pastor.
And
He is
a
a godly man, and he is a community leader. I don't know what they thought they were going to gain by putting Brian Alverson in jail.
Mm-hmm. No.
Big time grief.
So
40 days his grandchild spent in temporary foster home.
Imagine your grandchild or your child being put into foster care when and the child was tested and all this. There was no evidence of anything. And it took them 40 days to get that young man out of foster care. And and there is a theory, and I certainly agree with the theory that they did that to get him to shut up.
Yep.
And I will tell you, 99 out of 100 people would shut up, and Brian's not shutting up. So I don't shut up. I don't care. The only I teased Steve Bannon about it because he spent 120 days in jail, and so I teased him about it. I said, because he asked me some of the things these folks were doing down here. I'm like, well, they did this and this. I said, I'm not asking for him to come down here and save us. I said, I wanted him to understand stuff. I don't think. Nobody's coming to save us. Donald Trump's not coming down here to save us. There's only one savior, right? And I think that savior wants us to do the work. Right. We have to do the work. We have to assume the responsibility. He does. Otherwise we'd all be living in mansions today. I think God wants us to do the work, and He wants to see us doing the work. So I think we have to do the work and quit making excuses and quit asking for somebody else to come fix things for us. Let's go fix it for ourselves, because that's what's going to be more long lasting. So I was telling Mr. Bannon about that type of stuff, and I said, they got me under threat of 90 days for willful contempt of court, and about a slander lawsuit that I filed. And, I'm like, I said, at the end of Olga was there too. At the end of it, she said, Mr. Davis, do you have any questions about this? I said, I should have said, can I have 120? So I can have as many as Steve Bannon's got. So, but we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I'm sure this video will get shown to the judge. But I tell you, I've experienced some things in court. I went to law school. I'm an attorney. I'm a tax attorney. And I was actually a classmate of Alex Murdaugh, if you know the Murdaugh murders and all that kind of stuff. So, and I will tell you, I have friends that used to go down there. I practiced in Atlanta. So once I left, I worked at a big firm there, and all that kind of jazz. But I didn't really have the connections back here, but I had friends that would go to those parties down in Hampton, and yep, you go in and you put your phone in a box or a basket, before you go in back into the party or whatever they were doing. It's because judges were there and other people were there, and they didn't want anybody recording anything. And it's like that's what goes on in the state. And, we see what's going on with the insurance stuff. I mean, David Pasco, this is why I like David Pasco. I mean, he was, he is fighting the corruption in the state house, and that's what he wants to do. And what I'm really curious about is to watch which Republicans push back on him. I mean, he's in a little, or Charlie James is in a little tiff, Yeah. Yes. And I'm like, why is Charlie James pushing hard for that? Because Charlie James also interviews Drew McKissick.
Yep, on a regular basis.
On a regular basis, and he pumps the Freedom Caucus people on a regular basis. And, I don't think any of them want to be held accountable. I want to be held accountable. I don't mind being held accountable. I mean, we practice radical transparency and all that kind of stuff. To a limit. When they start asking, me where Olga gets her money to buy her clothes, I'm like, you guys are insane, But I mean, it's that's if you're in and Brian and those guys on their podcast last night, they do it every Thursday night. He was like, Josh Kimbrell and Josiah and all. It's like, y'all asked for this job, go do it. Quit complaining about, I only get paid this much, and I don't have time, and I got a regular job. Then don't ask for elected office, and keep asking for elected office. Let somebody else, do that. So that was quite interesting. But what Becky did there, and
My team.
And her team, she's got a great team over there. They took what we taught and what we said, and she took it back there. And sometimes she said that we had said it, sometimes she didn't. Because there are some people with the Jeff Davis derangement syndrome, and they're like, they don't want to do anything Jeff Davis says.
That's right.
Yes, and it's interesting. I don't know why. I mean, I think I could give the cure to cancer, and they would. There's some people that
They
wouldn't
would
want it.
reject it for sure.
But that's
and some of them sat right in front of us during the convention, and we did what we thought we should do. We were gracious winners. We wasn't really big, so that meant we had to be really gracious. And I tapped a lady who shall remain unnamed because she's probably watching it and she'll be ready to sue me, and I'll have to go to jail with you. But I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, I hope we can learn to work together. And she said, are you mySCGOP? And I said, I'm Spartanburg. And she said, but that's in mySCGOP. I said, I'm really Spartanburg. And she said, do you know Jeff Davis? And I went, he's a friend of mine. That's all you need to say. And so I left. But definitely he's poison to some people. And we've got to get past that because he tells the truth. And I'm nicer than Jeff. Haven't got to know me real well yet.
She's nicer, but she's never compromised. If you ask her that question, yes, she knows me, yes, she's a friend, that type of stuff. And if those people provide you with evidence, she's asked me, she's come to our house and asked us questions like, what does this mean? Why are they saying this? What is this? Blah, blah, blah. We have to answer those questions. Olga and I have to answer them. We've been answering them for years, and then you get people that just heard them for the first time, and it's like, why have they been hiding this? Why is nobody explaining? I'm like, we talked about it for years. Literally in 21, when we were doing reorg presentation, we did them twice a week, a Zoom call and in person. I said, this is what they're going to say about me. This is what it is, blah, 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 blah. Because it's the same thing they said about us with school choice. And it's how the government used the excuse of, Jeff, Olga bad, so we need to run the school choice program. Same thing they're doing to Curtis Loftus now. Curtis Loftus now bad, So we need to take over and manage the 50, $60 billion that Curtis is managing. And I'm like, no, that's not, I mean, the conservative route and the conservative belief is diversification of power. Too much power,
Invested in one small group and
is
causes corruption.
correct. Exactly right. And I will tell you, as a business person in the old days, I would have thought, yeah, national police force would be fantastic, efficiencies and all that kind of stuff. I mean, then you get on the wrong side of the police, then you're screwed. And then, but think about it too with the corporations. I mean, a normal corporation, if there's one corporation that controls everything, they can be corrupted internally and then end up collapsing the entire economy, that type of stuff. That's why we have, they're trying to break stuff up. And now they're at least talking about breaking up Facebook, which quite frankly, I'm shocked that it's been allowed to go as far as it has been and all that stuff. So, but Becky, I mean, what more can we say about the story? Y'all just kept doing it. Y'all had your meetings.
We had our meetings and we kept growing. And
but you did it openly. You also did not hide.
We took pictures and put them on Facebook. And the establishment that was the leadership in Greenville or Spartanburg had not let us in. I think that not knowing those folks, and so many of us were elected ECs in 23, we would have just joined and tried to make internal changes, but they didn't want to let us talk at an EC meeting. We weren't on any committees. We weren't asked to help do anything. And so we started having our own meetings Thursday nights, the ECs, the rogue ECs. And so we decided we needed more than just a little gang, because here's what was happening in Spartanburg. The same 7 or 8 people in the Republican Party ran everything. And I'll tell you what happened during reorg. They were really tired. You could see it, because when reorg rolled around and we had built our little group from Denny's to the clock, and it was bigger and bigger and more people came involved. We couldn't even tell them when reorg was going to be, because they wouldn't tell us. And so we got on the phone and called the obvious places, and we found one yes. It was reserved for a Thursday night. Reorg's always on Saturdays, but it was a Thursday.
Think about what she's saying. The party was not telling them the date of when reorg was,
or the place,
or the location. So they don't want them to know, because then people can't plan their vacations, all that stuff. They tell their own people,
right?
But they won't tell folks on the outside. They try to hide it. So what Becky's group did, and what we've done in the past, is you call the what's a big facility that can hold us. Do you have anything scheduled for the Republican Party? And they found one of the high schools. And what they ended up doing in Spartanburg is they had, instead of on a Saturday, one time at one place on a Saturday, they scheduled it at 3 different locations on a Monday and Tuesday. They skipped Wednesday for church, and then on a Thursday. So they had 3 different zones that they did it that way, even to control it more, because all of them could be there those days and monitor and watch things and try to push it their direction. But what Becky did and her team over there, which is what we preach, they showed up with so many people, you can't stop them. And what our directive is, get 75% of the people. You cannot show up with 50% plus 1 and win. They will cheat it. They will push it. They will do whatever. You got to show up with 75%. You're 2/3 to their 1/3. You're 3/4 to their 1/4. And it's like, yes, I guess we've lost. That is what we've done. But Becky's group, to their credit, also did it publicly. And that's what we advise people to do it, because that's how other people found them. You go see a nice, fun, happy group, posting pictures and talking conservative things. That's how this gentleman found us, seeing Steve Bannon.
Right.
If we did not go on Steve Bannon because we wanted to sneak attack somebody, and take over, how do people find us?
Mm-hmm.
They don't. So I think you have to be very open about it. You have to say, we're here, we're professional, but we're going to be persistent. we're not crazy people, and we're business people and professional people, but we have questions and concerns, and the party's not being run properly. And the best example, they wouldn't tell them when reorg was, and guess what? Their website went down.
It went down almost immediately after they finally well, we did have some help on the radio. And yes. So I had an assignment. I was calling every Thursday just to talk about camp meeting to get people to come. Well, when they wouldn't tell us when reorg was, then I started hitting them. We don't know when reorg is, and everybody else has announced. Everybody in the state knows when their reorg is, and we don't know why not.
She's talking about Bill Frady. She started going on Bill Frady's show from noon to 3. Avant, we had Bill come speak at the gala, which Marine Bandit came and spoke at on January 16th. And that's where this all started with. But I asked Steve to come speak, Bandit to speak at that. He couldn't do it. He had to be in DC on the 16th, and they'd already scheduled the date. So he said, we'll find somebody for you. And I said, well, your daughter or that Natalie Winters girl, that'd be good. And so Maureen came down, and I teased him. I said, well, if you can't come to the gala, you need to come back to our convention. So he did. He remembered. So, but where were we?
We were Bill Frady. We were calling in the end. So when we finally had, I believe, our we haven't had regular EC meetings. We're required to have 4 per year. I think that's in the state rules. We'd have 2 or we'd have 3. Well, we had one right before reorg, and our chairman literally called us out for the radio program that we had got going, and who is Becky? That would be me. So they were very irritated by it, and we got what we needed. They knew we were growing and they were watching, but I'll tell you, when 7 or 8 people control everything, they can't do the work of 80 people that were coming and joining us. And that's the one thing that I think I would share with any county is do not keep it small and do not keep it a secret, because going forward, and this week was a tough one for all of us because we had no idea that after we were ready to celebrate on Saturday after winning, there was no celebration because there were stacks of ballots that had not been counted, and there were winners and there were losers. Losers don't like to count ballots, so they leave. And winners don't know that they're left with the whole responsibility of everything going forward. And I probably called Jeff 3 or 4 times in the last couple of days. Just this piece of paper needs to go and be there by this time, and it's supposed to be, this is alphabetical and this is in the order. Blah, 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 blah. And it was a little overwhelming for us this week when we wanted to celebrate, and there was a lot of work to be done. So building it so that you can spread the work out so that people will help, and that just continues to explode in the precincts. So we've set some goals about precinct participation. Competition is always a good thing. So I figure if we can beat a few precincts like Timberlake, if Little Allen Power Station can take on Timberlake, and see if we can get our percentage.
We're going to do county precinct competition.
Well, we'll do that too.
That's good.
We haven't done anything in our precinct this time because we were a little busy helping everyone else.
A little busy.
But we had a president,
challenge.
our Peter Ferris, our president, got out there. He did the lit drops with our packages, and we put it all together. We got him the data and the addresses. He called people. He did what we needed him to do. We needed somebody to back us up in our precinct so we could go out and focus on
Last time we did the cookouts, things like that, so we had more and more. Peter did well keeping our current delegates engaged, and we still had out of our 20 delegates, we had 18 that came out to the convention, which we were very happy with.
And we had 13 seats in our precinct, and we brought 26 people to reorg so we could claim all of them. And in our precinct, we have, because I'll tell you what I started doing. Aside from my little subdivision, I just finally got in the car and drove around and saw American flags, and I pulled in, and I didn't know them. The first family that I got was from Buffalo, New York. The second family, brand new little area down by the river, and they were from, I want to say Staten Island, one of the islands that is New York.
It's all
I don't
you
know if
guys.
it's
You
all.
guys are saving South
No
Carolina. It's
kidding.
incredible.
No
It
kidding.
really is incredible.
And I'll tell you what, the New Yorkers are on fire. We have an older couple from Washington State. We call them John and Martha Washington. And they are pumped up and 80 years old, and they're knocking on doors. And that's just my precinct. So you get precincts excited. Oh, we have this lovely big home. We want the whole precinct to come here. Well, good for you, because mine's not that big, and we'll come to your house for dessert. So it's about just in general, making people excited about America again. And you can start with your county, but you can start with your precinct. And so that's what we did.
We have one funny story from our precinct. We knew our Trump people, and we want to get more, of course. So we mapped it, and Peter and actually David Cobb drove around our neighborhood, made notes where the Trump signs were that we were not aware. This one house never came on our radar. It didn't show up on our list. We just never paid attention. There was no reason for us to think there was any MAGA person there. This guy showed up one time here. He actually called. He was at the gym. He wanted a Trump hat. We said, "Come on over. We have Trump hats." He came here. This big dude, so MAGA, and so we get his address, and he's in our precinct. So I'm thinking, how come we don't know of him? We drive by his house, and it was way up in the election, and there is a big Trump banner on it. I'm like, how?
He has a fence on his front yard. He'd had those big spread out,
Right.
20-foot banners. He had a
I'm
banner.
like, how did we miss it for so long? Turns out it was his fiance's house. They just got married. He moved in. When they met, she's from Colombia, South America. So liberal, nothing to do with conservatives, Republican. He moves in, she flips, or he flipped her. They're both were at our convention, and they're like the biggest Trump supporters, both of them now. And it was all because of him, and now he's our delegate. She didn't become a delegate yet, but he says she's all on board now.
Yeah.
But it's about meeting neighbors and creating a community. There's some of our neighbors that I can tell don't like us, because we had the Trump sign that's been there since 2016. We got the old green truck, and it's got the Trump thing, says Rick 2020 on there. And they're like, who are the
He
wackies?
came here the other day again, and he said what convinced his now wife even more. She was watching, or the ban on TV was on, and she said, "Oh, there is a guy from Greenville on it." And the guy, his name is Adam, look at, and there was Jeff. He's like, "That's the guy from the brick building I told you about." So he came here the same day, took a picture with Jeff, took it home to his wife, said, "I told you that's the guy." So now he's all excited.
And since he was a delegate, and since his wife was not a delegate yet, and they wanted to sit together during the convention, of course I said, well, y'all can sit in the VIP section. So that was a moment of personal privilege. We could at least stick them in there. So they at least sat together. So
They had a great time.
yeah. So it can be a lot of fun. You can meet fun, good people. Olga and I, we don't do it as much now, but we would walk and we see neighbors and talk to neighbors and all that kind of stuff. Everybody sits in front of the TV and complains about what's going on. You need to figure out, start talking to each other and talk to people in your neighborhood. And what we did in again, Olga kind of said it, in 21, how we turned out so many people is we sent letters. We just found the hard R list. We sent letters to the what we call the top 100. It's probably 150 letters we printed something out. We did it in color. We had a picture of ourselves so people feel like they can identify with you, and gave our kind of resume, and I invited them, number one, to come. I think we had 2 events. We had on a Saturday morning, we had coffee and some donuts out in front of our house. And, even the people walking the neighborhood just stopped by, free donut. We talked to people and told them what we were doing. And then our reorg was on a Monday night at 7 p.m. So what we did is at 5 o'clock, we invited everybody to come over for hamburgers and hot dogs. So now we got them there, and they said, now let's all drive over to the Hilton, where our reorg is, and we didn't lose anybody. And strangely enough, I think 1 or 2 of the people, I think they just showed up for a burger, and they came with us. So, I mean, it was fun. It was then, now you met some people in the neighborhood, and some random people, and it was a lot of fun. And now that's the group of people. But and I will say on the flip side, the folks that we were battling back in 21 were a group or a cabal or whatever you want to call it, out of Bob Jones. Now, I'm not saying anything about Bob Jones, because, I mean, we literally live in a precinct that is adjacent to the campus of Bob Jones. I've got a lot of friends that went to Bob Jones, and, all those types of stuff. And I warned one of these folks. I said, just be aware. Some of the people, you're going to hear all kinds of things, and they have heard all kinds of things. And I said, just be aware. Some of these people are part of that Bob Jones cabal. And he shook his finger at me and said, don't say another. You don't have to say another word. I know exactly who you're talking about, and those people need to go. So even within their own community, there's good and bad. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater there, because it's they know the problems. And Bob Jones was intimately involved in the issue with Ellen Weaver, and giving her a master's degree, even though she didn't qualify for a master's degree. But think about that, and that's what this part of the reason why people don't like me. We pointed out. I mean, we're like, why is Ellen Weaver getting a master's degree in 3 months or whatever it is? Because otherwise she can't be superintendent of education. And then we pointed out after the fact, look what happened to Bob Jones, because there was discussion of them losing their accreditation. But what happened? The chairman of the board left. President of the university left, chief of staff left, all 3 of them. I actually talked to the accreditation people, and I was like, are y'all going to come out and say that this was your punishment? Those people had to resign or leave the university. And they told me, that gave a whole big explanation. Their issue is not punishment. Their issue is to bring them back into compliance. So a lot of people say, oh, well, those people just left to find different opportunities. I'm like, you left as president of a university or chief of staff as a university for a better opportunity. And strangely enough, 2 of those 3 people now, one is the president of, and one is the senior vice president of the Palmetto Family Council out of Columbia. They used to share space with Ellen Weaver and Palmetto Promise Institute and Jim DeMint, and they've been opposing us on school choice for almost a decade now. So, I mean, it's like we're still fighting the same people, because it's very complicated.
Can I mention, because when you told me you were going to talk to me, then I started writing stuff down, because the memory goes like this. One of the other things that I stole from Greenville was the opportunity to do exit polling. And so at our election, last summer, the runoff and the November, standing at the polls and just talking to people and asking them if they wanted to be active. Well, I never throw it away. I file it. And some of those people have been my best leads in my precinct, because they're coming to you. You don't have to knock on the doors. It's your precinct, and they're coming right to you, and they're voting on runoff day. They're already Republicans, and you just write it down and go visit them. One of the things that happened at reorg, because they literally put us in a little conference room around the table, 26 of us, well, and 7 from the other side, because the other side brought 7, we brought 26. Closed the door because it was noisy. And one of the husband of the person who was attempted to beat me looked across the table at one of the ladies that I brought, and he said, "And we knocked on your door." And I thought, yeah, and I knocked on it right after. So that's what you have to do. And when I knocked on the door, she said, "Oh, we had a lovely husband and wife here." And I said, "Well, then let me in. Let me talk to you about him." And I said that on hi.
We told you she was nice.
Yeah, I was very nice, and that's why they came with me. So, the leads you can get them in a lot of different places, but boy, don't miss the opportunity to do some exit polling because you need all the right people and they come to you. So
what we've done here, the headquarters building, which has been a godsend for us, and that's why they hate it so much. The other side really hates us having this building. That we've been reported, we've been this, you just not believe what they tried to do to get us out of this building because we got 35,000 people drive by every day, and they see a Trump sign out there, and sometimes people just pull in and they come and talk, and then we have shirts and hats and things like that. Not to make a bunch of money off of because everybody comes in and buys a hat or a shirt is our people.
Right.
And we get them to fill out a little questionnaire. We get their emails and we invite them to reorg and we file it. And we're trying to do it better electronically so we can do it for the whole state. But, and I encouraged all of our people in other areas. I'm like, do your coffee and politics equivalent, and start building your group that way. Find somebody to donate some space for you or whatever. We'll help you find ways to get, stuff to sell or whatever. We did the exit polling. We had some of our guys did testing. They tested their precinct and with exit polling maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But this past June, they did a ton of exit polling. I think we did it especially for the early voting. Because there's 7 early voting locations here, as opposed to trying to staff 151 precincts. They just went to all the early voting things, set up a little table, and you'd be shocked all the people just walk over and won't talk to them. They won't give them their information, and then you can tell which ones are our people versus the Democrats voting in the Republican primaries or whatever. And then that's how you build those contacts. And to Becky's point, we can do this. Because we can grow. How do the rhinos grow? Oh, come be part of my secret society where we're milking the heck out of everything and let me share our money with you. No, they don't want to share power. There were 7 people. What power we have? There were 7 people running the Spartanburg County Republican Party. They didn't want to share with anybody. That's what happened to us in Greenville. After the 2016 elections, we were part of the Tea Party, and Presley and I, we went and met with Nate Lloyd, my predecessor's chair here, and said, this is a great opportunity to go bring these MAGA Trump supporting voters out, and they were like, they didn't want them. They said, those people are one-time voters, and they're never coming back out again. And that was in 2017. And look where we are today. They ain't going away. That's the one thing. And I don't know if you read the Fitz News article, and William Timmons, to his credit, he's kind of figured some of this stuff out. I tell him what we're doing in the sense that, I want him to tell the other side. I want the other side to know what we're doing.
So he called us.
Oh, did he? He called and congratulated me. He probably called
Friday.
Oh,
and so I quick called Florida and told my sister, my other sister, my brother, my mother, the congressman is taking us to lunch on Friday.
I haven't gotten the free lunch. So.
Ooh, see, Spartanburg is.
No, that means he thinks he can convert you. You can be bought with a free lunch. He does. But think about this: if you were the U.S. congressman for the 4th congressional district, it's one thing if you got Greenville over here doing what Greenville does. Now you got Spartanburg. That's 100% of his district.
Right.
100% is us and the way we think and what we're asking him to do. I don't care if he wants to be the congressman, knock yourself out, but vote right, support Trump, do the right stuff. Yeah.
Which congressman was that?
Timmons. Yeah. The Select Restaurant in Greer.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Wow. What
Just
Let me
don't
talk about-
change.
who was from Walden 6? What new were you? So your EC is here. I just saw Jackie walk in. We have a new member for you, Jackie.
Okay,
We'll introduce you after.
I'm Jackie.
She's
Um,
Where do you live in Malden?
Off of Bethel Road.
Okay. I'm Fargo,
I'm sorry,
Fargo Street.
I'm Colorado Street. It's a new development.
Okay,
there you go.
we'll get together.
It's right by the elementary school.
Okay, we'll talk after the meeting.
Okay, great.
But see, if people were doing things in secret, which some of the counties that we work with, they were saying, "Oh, well, they won't know that we're trying to gather a bunch of people together to come, surprise them at reorg." I'm like, they always know. There's always a spy. It could be him. He's over there reporting back. I don't care. I'm like, the grief in 21 I took from some people, including Mark Lynch, about us broadcasting, live streaming our precinct reorg meetings or the trainings. They gave me grief. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. They'll know what you're doing. I'm like, I don't care. I want them to know what we're doing. And I will tell you, Beaufort County, to their credit, took a lot of what we do and they did it against our people down there. But our people down there wanted to do it in secret. And I will tell you, if you apply it right, but they did not do what Becky did. So, the establishment knocks on the door and they think they're the good people because where's Trump supporters, blah, blah, blah. Then Becky knocks on the door and said, let me tell you what's really going on. And they figure out who's going on. I mean, people. Literally, for people to sit here and say we're the rhino. I get accused of being a Democrat all the time. I'm paid by George Soros, and I'm here to. I'm paid by George Soros, and I'm inviting Steve Bannon to come here. I'm like, are you crazy? And literally somebody, posted the other day, another crazy person we wrote about it, included in one of the emails. Was saying that our battle or my battle with the Freedom Caucus and trying to expose who they are was really staged theater, that we're really on the same team working together and we're just pretending to have a battle. And I'm like, okay, so Adam Morgan ran for Congress and lost on purpose as part of some grandiose scheme he and I have concocted that will, make him senator. I don't even know what. It's just, but they say things that make no sense. Just so for the new folks, our issue or my issue or battle with the Freedom Caucus is I think a lot of groups usurp the names of things and they say things. But we, as Don Shirt here says, watch what they do, not what they say. And when I see the Freedom Caucus was founded in May of 22, we founded mySCGOP in January of 21. We took back control of the Greenville County Republican Party from the employee of the founder of the Freedom Caucus, Adam Morgan's employee. The same people that committed the fraud in reorg of 2021 here in Greenville were the people that rolled out the Freedom Caucus in May of 22, because we were getting the attention because we were talking the language that's out there supporting Trump and all that type of stuff. And then you get the people that were in the Freedom Caucus that actually don't support Donald Trump. They were all DeSantis people. They were all, I'd say they were Nikki people, but I'm like, why are you not coming out and supporting Donald Trump? Literally, the Trump team asked Adam Morgan, because it was Adam Morgan was announced to run for Congress against William Timmons. Timmons ain't stupid. He knows where the movement is. And he went out there. He got the endorsement from Trump for the second time. He was on the Trump team, up there when Trump made his announcement here in South Carolina. He's standing up there with them, and he's all Trump. If Trump wasn't here, he'd be, if it was something else, then he'd be there. But he is, and I think he's been very honest about what he wants to do with Doge and the financial stuff. So he's been impressed about that. But I think it's because we've helped move him in that direction. We don't really care who sits in these elected spots as long as they vote and do the right thing. I saw, and our people saw, the same people that started the Freedom Caucus were the people that were participating in the fraud. Then we see them pushing government-run school choice. Then we see them pushing pre-K learning reading programs group, a thing called First Steps, which was the darling of the Democratic Party. They pushed that, and then and written articles about it. It's very interesting. But to sit in, and they own an educational consulting company. So I'm like, when you own education consulting, you're pushing for more government-run things, and you're taking at the First Steps. There was an embezzlement issue with one of the First Steps programs. Each county has their own board. So I think it was down in Greenwood or one of those counties down there. They embezzled like $300,000. So apparently there's an emergency. We need to have a bill called the First Steps Accountability Act, which was led by Stuart Jones, and we're going to fix First Steps because we need to keep these people accountable. Well, what they did in keeping them accountable is they made the program permanent. Normally it was renewed every 5 years, and it's a big battle between the Republicans and Democrats, and they trade chits, with that type of stuff. But they made it permanent. Who would make it permanent? That was giving away something. They gave them, instead of an 8% administrative overhead fee, they gave them 13%. So they embezzle money. Let's give them more money because apparently they needed it, because that's why they embezzled it. So they needed more money. So let's give them that. They took out of the law the competitive bidding process. So think about that. I own a education consulting company that deals with that type of stuff. Let's take the competitive bidding process out of it. And the kicker, this was in the middle of all of the battles with the libraries we're having. They added into the law that each one of the 46, there's at least 46, First Steps pre-K learning program boards in each of the counties had to put on their board an employee from the local public library. And I'm like, does anybody know a conservative employee at a public library? None. There are none. Why would we be putting liberals on the boards of each of these? That was the Freedom Caucus. And First Steps program isn't even our issue. Our issue was on the school choice, and they were pushing the government-run school choice. When a lot of those same people, when I talked to them at the beginning, they're like, no, we don't want the government running the school choice program. Why would you want the same people that have taken our public schools down the tubes having controlling the purse strings of our private Christian schools? So, I mean, that's, Josiah Magnuson was one of them. He was, a big opponent to it. Now he's a big supporter of it. The end of last session, he was the guy that Josiah took all the credit for stopping that consolidation bill with that procedural issue at the last minute. They just passed unanimously S2, which is the consolidation thing, and Josiah is up there, praising it. So, I mean, it's, and that's what Brian Albertson and those guys were saying. What some consultants got with you, or some lobbyists got with you over the past year, since last May, and now your mindset has completely changed. And that's what's going on. So what I am super excited about is we are gaining counties and gaining good people in all these counties. Some of our counties got cheated, and we may or may not have the votes to take complete leadership control. But I think people are now frustrated to the nth degree of sitting there and watching what's been going on. And a lot of people are doubling down, tripling down, and saying, we're just got to do this over the entire state, which is, why we're trying to broadcast it. Because what we're about is education. We want to teach people how to do it. I don't care if the rhinos listen to us. My example of Beaufort, I think in 2021, they had 100 people come out because nobody challenged or did anything. I'm told in 23, they had 450, and this year they had 950.
Wow.
They did. That's the rhinos.
Yep.
Guess what? We need to do better.
Right.
We need to go into Beaufort, and we need to help them, and we need to help them organize, and we need to tell them what Spartanburg did, and we need to be open and notorious about it. And we need to go. I mean, because I will tell you, when we were down there in 21, people were telling us that they went into the GOP headquarters in 2016, and in the GOP headquarters for the November election, they were telling people to vote for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump. They were. I mean, they did not like Donald Trump, and they were like, you know what? We'd rather have Hillary Clinton. That's what they were telling people.
And
out
Buford
of the headquarters
is
office.
Hilton Head.
Hilton Head in Beaufort, yes. So
Must have been all those New Yorkers coming down.
I don't know because all I know is all the New Yorkers are coming down here trying to
But they're
escape.
coming to the upstate. Isn't that interesting? They're not going to the coast. They're coming up here because they literally, what they told us is they got online and researched it. Where can I go that's conservative? And they come here and they go, well, you're not conservative enough. Well, good. Come help us get that across.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty excited about where we're going. Obviously our convention was pretty easy, and I'm like, doesn't everybody want a convention like that? I mean, you really don't want us coming and sitting here and literally purging every freaking rhino out of your county party. I'm just like, if that's not what you want, then you're not part of the team, correct?
Yeah, for the state convention, this last convention was fabulous. It was textbook. Do you foresee?
For the county.
For the
Yeah.
county, the upcoming state convention, do you forecast out of the rules for rhinos playbook, something happening at the state?
I think it's going to be ramrodded down our throat once again. We are not walking in there with 75% of the votes.
Yeah.
That was our plan 2 years ago. We divided the state up into 7 congressional districts. Our assignment, along with Becky's, was to bring 2 or 3 people from our 4th congressional district, which we took as all of Greenville and all of Spartanburg, and to deliver all of the delegates and all the ECs. Now, other districts like the 3rd congressional district, they had, they have 11 counties over there, maybe 10 if you take Greenville out. They helped flip Oconee and McCormick. So we got 2 extra counties out of the 11, but instead of we went from 2 to 4, as when we should have gone from 2 to 10. We should have won every one of them. Because what we wanted to do is win the entire, not only win the delegates for the state convention to take out leadership, we needed to win this control of the state executive committee. And I think on the state executive committee, we've gone from 11 to maybe, and there's 50 voting members of the state executive committee. We've gone from 11, some squishy there, to maybe 14. That's not enough to, it's a nice block, but it's not enough to take back control or stop the rhinos at the state executive committee. So even if, this is my argument to people, even if we get elected to be state chair, if we work a deal or find some way or angle to get that done, to get Drew McKissick out, what are we going to do with the state executive committee that's going to sit there and say, oh, well, Jeff Davis, if you're elected, why don't you sit down over there in the corner, or you're not allowed to come to our meetings, and we're going to hire Drew McKissick to run the SCGOP. There's nothing we can do to stop it. But, they could literally tell the elected chair, to leave the room, and we're hiring Drew McKissick to come back in here and do it. Now, some of them may just go along to get along, knowing that, things are happening and you can't maybe go that far. But we're not walking in with 75% of the votes, and that's a problem. So they're going to ramrod it through, just like they did in Charleston, just like they've done it in Berkeley, or Berkeley I think was done that way. Beaufort, some of the same things. So I think you guys are delegates coming down there too. I mean, we'll see it. We'll go. I want as many people. We got 180 people we can take down there, and we've invited other people just to come, even if you're not a delegate. Maybe some folks that can't come, you can get moved up into a delegate or alternate spot, and just watch it again. I mean, they won't broadcast it. They don't film it or anything like what we did. Because they don't want people actually seeing it. Because if you saw it, you would be furious. And you'd be like, we got to change. And I think they actually don't want to film it because they're like, oh, they're going to catch us doing something illegal, But I mean, in Charleston, what they did in Charleston, imagine our convention, except for it was actually contested. So there's myself, Yvonne, and Mike running for a position, and they do a voice vote. 50% of the people over here say yes to this person, 50% say yes to this person. And the these people win. There was no count. There was no secret ballot or even a ballot, or they just said, oh, I think these people win. But it's because, think about it. The person that opens the convention is the chair. The chair was an establishment rhino. He actually runs a national political consulting group. The first person you elect is your temporary chair, which will manage the convention. So the chair opens it up. Temporary chair is up for election. You got Rhino versus America First person, establishment America First person. This person wins. Ayes have it. Not a written vote, but just a voice vote. So they pick their own person, and then their own person continues to always side on their side. So, that has upset a lot of people down there, and I've been told that actually upset a lot of people on the other side. New recruits, the Rhinos went down there and recruited everybody, saying that they were MAGA America First. They just go in and tell them. And they're like, wait a second, MAGA America First would not ramrod it through. If somebody had wanted to run against me, knock yourself out, that'd be great. I would have got to give my 3-minute speech, So, but we cannot become what they are and what we're purging, but that's what they do. So I think it's going to be the same experience, and I think hopefully it's going to motivate some more people to get more pissed off.
Film some of that and then put it on the internet on what's happening at this convention.
Some people do. There's some people that wear body cams and things like that, and you can do
That
that.
itself is usually too busy to do it, but
Yeah.
I think people do it.
People take pictures and doing stuff on video, and there is some of that. The best picture we got from the 23 convention was, of course, they put us in the back, right? So even if you're a legitimate person saying, "Oh, hold up green cards or red cards or yay or nay," if you put all the one group in the far back, you're not going to hear them as well. So it's going to sound like all the people right in front of you are voting. You're going to say, well, that's the votes that won. But one of the best photos that we then share is we were in the very back. We're all jumping up, holding our red cards versus the green cards because we want to make sure they see it, right, when they're calling the vote. Adam Morgan, chair of the Freedom Caucus, on the last row, sitting down, holding his card just like this. Literally everybody around him in Greenville standing up, waving their red card. He's sitting there. You couldn't have seen his card. He might as well have been holding up a green card. It's like he wasn't. And it caught him. It exposed a lot of people to the fact that, he's not, because they say they're fighting for us. I'm like, he's not fighting for us. He's sitting there on his butt, not even holding up his card, with the guy next to him waving his card. It's.
Here's the picture.
Oh, there it is.
No.
That's him.
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
Oh,
I'm like, are you kidding me?
That was Adam.
Look at Alex next to him. He's jumping up and down, having the time of his
Look
life.
at Greg to the right. He had a sticker on the top of his head, so people could see, I guess, the vote for Jeff.
Who sits down? But you see the battle. That guy up
So it
there.
was green cards from the Rhino versus the red cards. And strategically, they're, the people that they knew Joe McKissick that would vote his way, they were up front. On our side was in the back, so you had to make yourself visible. So this was Adam making himself visible.
You should stand under chairs.
You should have, all this stuff.
It's not.
But that's why, and Becky and her group
Even
went in
as
there.
Think about it, elected official and leader, and that's what I said, that Jeff is too busy filming because usually people just look up to him or Yvonne just for guiding the leadership, whatever. Adam should be the leader. Should be the leader, should be someone that at least what I look in a leader for. Someone that I can look up and like, how is my leader voting? I'll go because I don't always pay attention to what's happening. So I'm looking for
Well,
guidance.
imagine, I mean, we weren't going to win it because they were going to cheat it anyhow. Maybe
But
you
this
knew
is
that.
just
But
not-
imagine if all of those Greenville people were just sitting down, holding their car like this, with all the green cards standing up in front of them.
So they don't count the cards being counted.
No, it's a visual scan.
And there's not always wins.
Their side always wins. No, I
It's
know.
always there.
And but think about it too. That's why we sit there and say you got to come out with 75% of the people. It has to be so overwhelming that you will have a riot on your hands if you sit there and call it for the other side. And I will give Mark Benoit a lot of credit. From 23, the state party took over our convention and our whole reorg process. Mark Benoit was the SCGOP employee that we were dealing with. He was the one that opened up the convention, even though state law says the chair's supposed to. And I think they broke all kinds of laws. I mean, but we also knew that if we tried to go to court, we were not going to get any satisfaction. So instead of spending our time crying about it, saying Donald Trump, come save us, and going to court, we sat there and said, you know what? Okay, that's the game you want to play. You don't take it over. We're just going to bring more people.
Right.
And I don't, Mark ended up leaving. He was the political director for the SCGOP. He had already announced he was leaving, or told me he was leaving. He had a new job. And I think to his credit, either we really had that much more massive numbers.
Well, we did, but
We
normally it doesn't matter.
Normally it doesn't matter, but he did. He started with the voice vote, and then was it a standing thing?
And then
And then he said, well, I still can't tell, everybody stand on this side for the temporary president, everybody stand on this side for the
Was
other.
that his doing? I thought that was your doing.
no, it was
No,
not
it was him.
not
No, it was Mark Benoit.
Really?
Yes. And I bet Mark Benoit got chewed out for doing it.
Funny. That was really funny.
Because, I mean, think about it. He could have just said, oh, these people have it. Now, it could have been a riot because it should have been pretty obvious. But I mean, once they had us all walk on either side, which I love, because then you can see the ones walking to the other side. We were on the other side.
Yeah, so no.
it was funny. And
That's what I accuse everybody. You were on the other side.
It was funny. We had some neighbors, again, when Jed was talking about the Bob Jones community is divided too, and we have great Bob Jones people in our precinct, and they were coming to our side, and their friends that are not on our side were literally going after them, saying, where are you going? And they were like, we're going with them. You should too. So
I had a county councilman call me yesterday and said he was given 30 minutes of an earful from somebody who doesn't like me. Now, let me tell you what happened. This is an individual.
we have only 10 minutes before it's 1.
Okay,
I know it's a long story.
She wants to come to the state convention. She wants to be on our slate. Sally Ann comes here. She works hard. She door knocks. Sally Ann wants to go to the convention. She's on the state convention. She's on the slate. This person talks bad about us, doesn't come to it. She says she's a Trump supporter. She goes out and door knocks for Trump, not as part of our team or not part of our call banking, which we were 5th in the nation of call banking for Trump. I'm like, I'm not taking Sally Ann off the list to put you on there, even though I know you're going to go out there and scream bloody murder about me. So I said, if you want to start meeting people and doing stuff, you're welcome to come in here and start, but what is Sally Ann? What are all y'all going to say about me if I was to do that? That's the types of games these people in the establishment play. And I'm like, we're not going to do it. So our reorg was March 1st. On February 28th, the day before the Saturday reorg, she went and changed her voter registration to a different precinct. We had people that disliked her so much in her old precinct, they were out door knocking and they were, come hell or high water, they were getting rid of her. And so I think she knew people out there door, like, so they're builders in town. So she changed her voter registration to another house that they're building. And so I just out of curiosity, I sent an email or FOIA request to Conway's office. I said, I want to verify that they've changed their voter registration, and these are the three people, she, her husband, her son. And I said, can you send me their change of voter registration? I've seen these before. And so he sent it to me. So I knew when they had changed. I knew the husband had not changed his. Son had already changed. Then I called up the building permit people. And I said, is there a certificate of occupancy on this house? No, sir, there's not. And I tell Allie about this, and she said, oh, well, we had a temporary certificate of occupancy. I'm like, okay, well, I don't know much about the building thing. So I sent a formal FOIA request. I said, is there a certificate of occupancy or temporary certificate, whatever, anything to do with this house? No, I get it back. So now I know they have changed their voter registration, or she has changed, the son and her changed her voter registration to a new house so she could be elected EC. Now, I forgot to mention the best part about it. So I've been having this contention with her before because she wanted to be on our slate to go to the state convention. At 11:30 on Saturday, she texted me, and we'll put all this stuff out. Oh, I love my new precinct. I was just elected to be the EC of the Sandy Flats precinct. I want to be on the slate. I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna get good. I'm like, we will run this to ground. And so what has now happened is she has changed her voter registration to a place that did not have a CO. I've got more documentation that came in on April 11th. They went and got all of their approvals done and got their certificate of occupancy on April 11th. Well, she changed her voter. I mean, you can't move. I mean, I've talked to builders. They're like, you can't move into a house that does not have a certificate of occupancy. And it is a big deal. And now, and even in the notes, the inspector wrote, oh, authorized temporary or verbal certificate of occupancy in November of 24. Forgot to write it in the notes.
Oh.
Here's a normal person. Yep. He's lying. Absolutely. And I can almost guess. Well, guess what? Pamela Vett was at her daughter's wedding, a couple of months ago, whenever it was. Her daughter is a lawyer, and her daughter's now called me trying to work this stuff out. And I left her a voicemail saying, guess what? We are going to run this to the ground. I gave your mother an opportunity just to resign and go away, and we would just drop it, not to create a huge stink. But now she has CC'd the state party about it and all this, and calling us liars that we've lied, that they had this temporary certificate of occupancy and all this type of stuff.
So we kept digging a little more, and we found out not only they didn't have certificate of occupancy, but all her final inspections were closed like a week ago. Like
all
electricity. I'm not a builder, but I'm told they shouldn't have not been in the house without inspections.
And so, well, that's what it is. I told Olga about that the other day. I said, what's going to happen? Because we've been through this time and time again. I said, somebody's going to lose their job. Now we're going to go through the chain of command, and I'm going to go to the head inspector, and I'm going to, once all the data is pulled together, I'm going to say, what are we doing about this? And I expect somebody to probably lose their job. And if they sit there and try to sweep it under the table, I'm going straight to county council, and I'm going to let county council members know. I'm like, and we're going to call this the Ali Sepala rule, and we are going to broadcast it, and we're going to get the entire Greenville County Executive Committee to vote on it. Because I told her, I said, I'm like, she's crazy. But I'm like, you really want to dial this up? We'll dial it up. I mean, I got plenty of other stuff to do, but I'm like, we're about education. This is one of those teaching things. And this is what is going on. These people think they are entitled to everything and they can get away with stuff. I mean, when you got Pamela Vett coming to, their daughter's wedding, and that's, I don't know who made the phone call. Did Pamela Vett make the phone call? I don't think William Pittman is dumb enough to make a phone call, and for her, he knows who she is too. But Pamela might have. And I'm like, I don't know if it'll get tied all the way back to her, but somebody's in trouble about it. Now, the other piece of it is voter fraud. She registered or participated in reorg and filled out the form 1, which y'all all did, saying that she lived in that precinct. Yeah, she had changed her voter registration. You know, maybe she did it illegally. Maybe that's the voter fraud piece of it. The husband did it too. Guess what? He had changed his registration. Do I get to go to Becky's precinct and fill out a form saying I'm part of her precinct and I sit here and sign off on the document? I would not want to be in their shoes.
No.
But this is what these people do.
Well, if you were at the convention when I was nominating Jeff, it's not because we don't agree with Ali. Jeff would do that to any of you because we're trying to just not become them. And if you lie, we're dig deeper if we find out that you lie. And that's how just Jeff is. So it's not about someone that we, try to, I don't know, pick on. It's just you don't do that. I mean, it's not going to be tolerated.
People make mistakes. Right. That's one thing. She did it very nefariously in the sense of, she wanted to be EC because she was going to come to our meetings and make a stink as the EC of a precinct or whatever, unless I put her on the state delegate list. And I'm like, I do not know why she wants to be a state delegate, but she is hell bent on being a state delegate. She's not, but she was hell bent on being on one. So I'm like, this is crazy town. So
she was on the ballot still because she registered to be on the ballot as a state delegate, and no one removed her from that. Obviously, she paid her fee. She was just not chosen by our nominating committee to be on the slate that we recommended people to vote on, knowing who they are, what they stand for, that they're available, that are part of the team. That's all it was. So she could engage others vote for her. She was not stopped from doing that. Like, no one kept her. Her name was on the ballot. But being on the slate, it's somewhat, I feel like a privilege. When you're part of the team, you work hard, you get to go and be part
it's a privilege and a responsibility. You have to show up, you got to pay. If I could not go and get somebody in my place, I would gladly not go. It's going to be, a waste of time. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. We don't.
Well, 12:58. Maybe you will have.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Will there be a bus?
There is a bus.
I just got actually email and quote. I don't know. I haven't opened it. If one just got a quote from the bus provider. We already got 2 gracious donors that each of them donated to contribute to the bus to lower the cost for individuals. So now I'm told there's a 3rd donor that's coming. So once we get that and we see the quote, I think email will come either later today or tomorrow with what the bus will cost.
Just one bus?
We're looking at it,
okay.
Depending, again, how many people.
We can bring 90 delegates and 90 alternates. So in theory, we can get 180
And we encourage everyone to
bus.
know, even if you're not a delegate or alternate, we encourage, if you're willing to spend, the state convention will cost you $40 to register. That's not going to us, that's going to the state. And then the bus fee, which we're expecting, I don't want to say maybe $20, maybe $10. We'll
Depends on but I think the normal cost would be about $40.
Yeah,
a lot of people want to drive and don't want to ride a bus anyhow. Some people go down the day before.
And I don't think they're allowing guests, and so if you're not delegate or alternate, I don't think you can go. We don't know. We'll find out.
That's what the registration said.
There's a section for people that are not.
Right. Since Barbara Arthur is not a delegate or alternate, they may prohibit guests from coming, so she's not allowed in the building. That's my theory. I don't know. We'll keep you posted, but I think we'll have that information, if not today, tomorrow. And I think last night, everyone just asked, the bus was picking up people from McAllister Square, and then we had a second stop in Simpsonville on Harrison Bridge. Right. So we will probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead and add John to that list, since I'm riding in the day before.
Oh,
He
so
needs
John
to-
will
he
be
needs to ride the
on the
bus.
fun
Come
bus?
help me. Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Are we going to call me? Everybody going to call me on Monday?
Oh, yes. Curtis Loftus. We sent out an email about that. They're going after Curtis. please look at that email. Please call your state senator and ask them. Just even if you know that they've been asked, the more voices they hear, the more emails they get, the more texts they get saying, what's your position on Curtis Loftus? Why are we doing this? Don't y'all have more important things to be doing? That type of stuff. I mean, they are really, we sent that email out yesterday, and we also sent it out, not just it was a Greenville email, but we sent it out more statewide. And that's why we had the links where other people could find that. We will post it on our social media. So if you aren't on our email list or whatnot yet, go look at the Greenville GOP Facebook page.
I'm still not getting the emails.
You're not? I will tell you, just like we always talk about, the Russians and the Chinese kind of do and try to hack into stuff. I mean, in the beginning of March, our email opened, and even the emails I got were going to spam. So check your spam. We've done all the things that we know to be able to do, but that's why what we're working on doing is having a diversified e-communication system where, yes, we can do mass emails, but we need the zones. Or that's why even in that email we sent out, we were like, hey, forward this to your people in your precinct in your zone. Because, we're seeing the email open rate drop precipitously. And it's because, somebody's, gotten it either going to spam or killing it altogether on the other end. I mean, we're dealing with very powerful people. And, I will tell you, Lindsey Graham does not want us in control of the South Carolina Republican Party. He absolutely does not. And if you look at, 2 years ago, it was Tim Scott, writing the checks to the state party. They never had permanent employees that continue to work on reorg. Each county did their own reorg, but not that time. 2 years ago, they had the state party employees working and people in all the counties doing it. This year, they actually, did that as well. Somebody has to fund that. And I think this year it's probably, obviously, you'll probably find a couple $100,000 donations coming from Lindsey Graham's campaign to the state party. And they'll say it was for something else, but it's really to continue to employ all those staff people to sit there and get involved in reorg. And what they did in Charleston, the people that won Charleston, Dorchester, and Berkeley were all political consultants. I mean, they ran a political consulting, like a real election down there. And it's like, we're all, Steve Bannon said, we're all just, normal, regular folks. And, they spent money, they did websites, they did all this kind of stuff. And, I'm sure they're going to, I would assume they're going to get some business directed their way, just like the legislators. I mean, that's my thing about the ethics of all of this. I mean, if you're a lawyer legislator, which is another big problem in the state, I can go, my state senator is Jason Elliott. If I went to Jason Elliott and gave him a $1 million retainer, and I said, Jason, you can take $10,000, just be on call, take $10,000 a month off of it. It doesn't get reported anywhere. How? Nobody would know. That's another one of those situations that's easily fixable. I mean, we're attorneys. I understand the attorney-client privilege and stuff like that, but you can set up a group that can also be confidential that I could give access to come look at my stuff. And if I'm getting things that are nefarious out there or family members are and give them access, you can still keep it confidential, but you can make sure it's not happening. I'm not so sure it's not happening. I mean, the Fitz News article was about, it was an S-244 issue, but one of the lawyer legislators that was fighting it, we were fighting it too. There's a longer story to it, but who knows if his firm gets more business, a certain way, and that type of thing. So I mean, there's so much going on, and it is mind blowing. And the further you dig into it, the worse it gets. And I say that as somebody, I'm still learning how bad it is, and it is bad. It really is bad. If you think it's bad on the national level,
so the call to action is
it's worse here.
Tell people what to do.
Call your state senator and let them know. Let them know that you support Curtis Loftus. And even if Curtis did something bad and he's an evil, bad human being, not the case. But even so, we want an independent, treasurer. We don't want them appointing a committee
Yeah.
to sit there and be in charge of the treasurer and managing the 50 or $60 billion. Because I will tell you, I come from the banking background. If I could direct even who custodies those assets or what bank holds it, I mean, there is a lot of power and money in that. I like your bank, but I don't like his bank. So I'm going to let you hold the $1 billion, and I'm going to take it from his bank. That may put a crisis on his bank that actually gets his bank to shut down because all of a sudden you've ripped out $1 billion, account that they, because you have to, there's the FEC, the FDIC has certain levels and all that type of stuff. I saw it during the financial crisis of 2008. The feds were picking winners and losers. They picked, Bank of America, you win, we're going to bail you out. Wachovia, you lose, we're taking you down. And the bank that we were associated with was the largest privately held bank in Atlanta. We had 5 branches and probably $5 billion. We had it was pretty big, but the leadership was conservative. They shut them down, while they're bailing out the other guys down the street. So I mean, there's a lot of influence over that type of stuff, and the last thing we want to do is give it to a corrupt legislature. We have what's called a legislative state. We have a weak governor and a strong legislature. We have a weak governor because guess what? In the old days, there used to be more black people that lived in the state of South Carolina than white people. So, and this is the 1890s. And the last thing they wanted to do is all the black people to wake up and vote in a black governor. And guess what? If you have a strong governor, then the cabal of the time period thought that'd be a bad thing. So they put all the power in the legislature. The governor is about number 7 on the list. He can't get it. He or she can't. They got a bully pulpit, but that's about all they got. They can't really do anything. And the legislature runs everything. They all run it by committees, and everybody got fingers to point at everybody else. And it's the way it is. And we got to change it. I would almost rather a strong governor that we can then hold accountable.
Right.
And if you're, Henry McMaster, you can appoint even as a weak governor, he does bad things. But I'm like, we can take them out. But if they sit there, if the Senate and legislature takes over management of $60 billion, we might as well, it's a hill to die on. Because Curtis does talk back to folks. He is the first one that started bringing up all the DEI stuff. He's the first one. He is literally the most popular statewide elected official in the state. But Yvonne said it the other day. Think about the press. Most of us get involved and we know stuff, but the press, people that watch the press, they just hear one tidbit, and a third tidbit. The person that does Yvonne's hair literally sat there and said to her the other day, probably because she heard a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit there. Did you hear that our treasurer stole $1.8 billion? He stole $1.8 billion, he'd be in jail. I mean, that's what they do. That is a political slander campaign against him. And he is one of the good guys. So if there's one elected official I could pick, it'd be Curtis Loftus, and the second one would probably be David Pasco, because he's going to prosecute the heck out of those people. So it's going to be fun. So,
Channel 21 really coming down on Curtis Loftus.
sir.
Channel 21 is really coming down on Curtis Loftus.
It's funny because they're all coming down on him.
They're really hitting
Right.
hard.
Right. And that ought to wake us up as well. Why are they coming down hard on them? This is like the mainstream media. But I'm like, Curtis is the guy that manages the investments. Why are you blaming him for what the accountant did? I don't even understand it. The comptroller and state auditor have resigned over this, and now you want to go blame Curtis Loftus? He's the investment guy.
He's honest and they don't want him.
Right. They don't want him. They're scared to death he was going to run for governor. He had even said he wasn't running for re-election. He wanted to just get out of all this stuff and just, go live his life. I mean, they sold their business years ago, and, he can have a nice little life, but he's doing exactly what Donald Trump does. He's like, you know what? I can't. This is, my parents, his parents have recently passed away. They knew that he just walked on it and left us in the lurch. And I think, we need to support him. And and do it. So,
Didn't he say when they audited him, all his accounts, the bank accounts matched?
well, I mean, there's no missing money. I mean, that's the whole funny thing about it.
They changed their accounting software.
Software,
And when
yes.
they changed their software, the numbers transcribed incorrectly. That's what happened.
That's right.
But that was at the controller side, right?
But it's not Curtis Loftus's fault. I mean, he's in charge of the
He's in
investment.
charge of making sure all the money's still there. And all
Right.
the money's still
Like,
there.
here's an account. It's got X amount of money in it. You want me to manage it? Yes, the investment managers look at cash flow and all that kind of stuff. But but he doesn't do the accounting. He's interviewing investment managers. He's not looking at the accounting software.
That's the auditor's job.
Yes, and the comptroller in this case.
How do you know that? And our legislators don't know that, or pretend not to know that.
I think, I have the thing in there called brain, and that might have something to do with it.
But the sad part is most of the electorate don't. So what we need to do is we need to show these state
Or
senators.
they choose not to use
Oh,
it.
they choose not. But they do. Yeah, I mean, they got lives. I get it, but we don't, right? So,
That's it. We got lives.
right. So what we need to do is let these state senators know, if you do this, we're not going to forget, and we're going to come after you, and we need to get rid of you because obviously you're on the corrupt side. There are some folks that I know and like, in some ways, are sitting there saying that they think Curtis did something wrong, and I'm like, I don't really care.
don't get
This is a hill to die on.
We're seeing the same response that now the senators write back, and they say there was a lot of evidence provided. We're watching it, and we encourage you to do the same. Like they're telling you, they're giving you, they're preparing you for them to go against Curtis. That's what they're not saying, oh, this or that. Oh, you need to watch the evidence that was provided. So don't let that get away. You can say, yeah, we have watched the evidence, and we just want you to support Curtis.
So
Like,
Monday
be
is
firm.
a time where
It's at noon. It's at noon.
But I mean, what's the purpose of the meeting?
It's a hearing.
Is it
Yeah.
So there's actually.
On Monday.
So this is actually the weekend.
I don't know if they'll have a vote or not. They could have a vote. I mean, in theory, at the end of the day, they could have a vote on whether to impeach or put him up for impeachment.
Well, Senator Martin told me the exact same thing. All that is,
Yep. We are seeing the pattern.
I'm gonna listen to all the evidence. Then-
Yeah, I think look on the
And the email that you sent out today, which was from Greenville County GOP, it wasn't from that I got this morning.
yes, it was from Greenville.
The link, it only has a business phone number, it doesn't,
Okay.
and you can't text. I tried texting that too, it doesn't accept text.
Okay, well, but call him. I left a voicemail yesterday.
Well, I left him working on his office number.
Right.
And I emailed him.
Right.
Also want to call, so.
Right. Well, I can get you a cell phone. So what we're trying to do with the data stuff is it's tough to keep track of, even with those guys. But we're going to have in the GOP Plus system, we're going to be able to mark, who are legislators, and we're going to be able to have notes and all their information in there. That's what we want to be able to print out. So, I mean, I can get it to you, but we need to really get it to 10,000 people.
Well, if you send another email, I can give it out.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, but there's 46 of them, so we got to get all of them, and they change numbers. I mean, when I called Jason Elliott's office yesterday, the number I had in my phone actually comes up for another state senator that's no longer there.
Wow.
So even that, they changed phone numbers.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They don't. They move them around. It was.
Different office.
Yeah, they move offices and then they keep the same phone numbers. But interestingly enough, Jason Elliott's office mate is Josh Kimbrell. So, I found that interesting because the secretary, the voicemail is like, this is the office for Jason Elliott and Josh Kimbrell. So any other questions? I know we run over time. You guys are new. John?
Is there, I have a particular dislike for McKissick, so I just was wondering if there was anything that could be done at the state convention to get a vote on cutting off his paycheck.
Because paychecks never existed for him, just so you know, he's the one that's ever gotten.
Yep. What's his name before him did get paid?
Well, he set it up, but then he handed it over to Drew.
Matt Moore. Matt Moore did get paid. Chad Conley. When Chad Conley left, Matt Moore was the executive director, so he was getting paid already, so they kept paying him. And even though they elected him as chair at the state EC, and then they kept this whole pay thing going. But there are people who would like to see the chairman position go to an unpaid
Either unpaid
position.
or just expenses or, you know.
100%. 100%. But there is a possibility, of working a deal with some. There are some establishment. I'll be kind and call them old guard establishment people that don't like McKissick. But can we cut a deal with them? There's 943 delegates. That's 472 you need to have to win. We're not walking. I want us to walk in there with 750, so it's obvious. But we're only walking in there with 400. So we need to cobble together another 100 if we got even an honest, vote. And we probably need to cobble together 200 to get an obvious vote. But there are some people that don't like the guy, and
So if we can we call for a vote and just see how many there were? I mean, at least it would be
you can.
Raiders run.
You can, but it'll be shut down. It'll be ramrodded through. And that's out of order, and you can't do that. And that's for the state executive. Who knows? I mean, it's what they do. I mean, you've probably seen it. I mean, it's what if you're not if you're willing to ramrod a convention through, you can do it. And it's what they do, and they've proven to do it over and over again. So, I mean, you're asking a logical question, and it's just there's an illogical answer in the sense that it's nothing's normal with these people. So, and most of the people on the state executive committee, all they care about is, do I get invited to the Christmas party at the governor's mansion? That's what they want.
But there are a lot of people. I know in Spartanburg, all of the text threads, well, what's going to happen because they canceled the debates, the one in York and Lexington, and it appears that neither Ken nor Barbara are going to be in attendance. Is anybody going to challenge Drew? And that's
we do have a friend that's in and somebody will challenge you. Who it's going to be, whether it's a viable challenge, yet to be determined. So to me, I think this man that last time, if we kept Drew under 50%, we were 16 votes, actually 14, because 2 of our people sat in the wrong spot. But we were 16 votes from stopping him. If we'd gotten to a second round of voting, then Curtis Loftus, in fact, had agreed to come in and be our kind of a consensus person. So Curtis is obviously fighting a lot of stuff now. So, I mean, I don't think he's up for that. But who do we find as a consensus person that will work with us and work with the establishment people that, that don't like Drew? I mean, in reality, we should be able to find somebody that we can all gather behind and say, you know what, we need, somebody that's normal to kind of run this operation. I mean, some of us went to the Republican National thing up RNC up in Milwaukee. South Carolina literally sat behind Guam. I mean, we were in the worst seat possible, I mean,
backs against the wall.
Right. It was horrible. I mean, the Trump team does not like him. So, I mean, there is, and we're playing that card too to see what the establishment. I mean, I don't think some of those. I don't think Henry McMaster and those guys necessarily like it, but they're trying to stay out of it. In that sense, they haven't really. They always say the good things. But if they were to sit there and if the establishment and the Trump people or maybe they can come in and do something, or maybe they're just like, you know what, you guys didn't do your job and suck it up, and y'all got to do it better in 2 years. We needed to walk in there with 75% of the votes. I told that to people across the state, and Becky was in some of those meetings, and I got my ass chewed about, Jeff's too mean. Yeah. We do it different in our county than you do it in Greenville. I'm like, okay, well, every place I've ever known that's won has done it because they've done exactly what we've said.
Bring the numbers.
Bring the numbers. You know, I got so up. I mean, Jonathan Hill did it 2 years ago when I sat there and said, you know, after the state convention that time, I said, you got to win. You got to bring 75% of the numbers. He's like, oh no, you don't. You just got to know the rules, Robert's rules better, and you got to just have 50% plus one. Bull, like bull. You know, you got to bring mass numbers, and until we bring mass numbers, we're
And
not
that's
going to
one thing, and then I'm going to quit talking. But one of the things that kind of freaked me out right before the convention was the number of people that one person in my precinct, and when I asked them, I said, we need you for these 2 days. And somehow she overlooked that, and she was going to be gone, and then somebody else was going to lose 2 people, and somebody else. And so I'm counting it, and it's going to be like 2 digits, and I'm freaking out. Well, we bested them 2-1. We had over 250. They had about 150. So we were good, but you can't count on 50% plus one because things happen and people don't show up. And so we had no idea that we were coming with that, but we were down to the last day calling people saying, you got to be there, you got to be there. You just
But their numbers, y'all came out, I think, 69%.
Yeah, we came out better than that. We did.
So, I mean, but that you got to shoot for that goal.
Right.
You know, yes, you could have won with 50% plus one, but but it's better to have 69 or 70 or 75% and win that way.
Right.
You know,
It's easier to sleep at night if you have 75%.
And even at 69 or 75%, they were still stressing about it. So we'll go ahead and cut here. Any other questions, we'll hang around and answer. But thank y'all for coming.
I have too many.
Yeah.
We'd be here a lot longer.
Well,
For now.
you see where we're going, though.
Yeah.
And I think there's more people like us out there, and we just got to get more people involved. And think about it. I mean, we are a county of 554,000 people. 1,000 people is all we really need to bring out, and we win. They can't bring out. They bring out 200, 300 people, and that's it. I mean, we need to bring out 1,000, but we really need to bring out 2,000 or 3,000. So if you think the voter numbers in June are bad, it's even worse. So when I ask our people, vote in November, vote in the June primaries, and come out to precinct reorg. We need to just wrap it up and just get more people involved, and that's how we'll do it. So we'll go ahead and cut here, but thanks for attending and watching online, and thanks for being here with us.
Look what just came in the mail. It's been months.
What is it?
Our Posing Career Greenville's Best Activist Group.
You mean that's real? I heard that was fake. Do you want to show it on the screen?
Oh, I printed it.
This just came in the mail, but we were told we just made this award up, and then we had everybody to go. We actually won the award before we even knew we were up for the award. So, but that's what it is. So, everybody have a great weekend. Happy Easter.